What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. Here I bring you the best content on YouTube related to sports card grading, hobby trends, and market analysis so that you can enjoy the hobby either as a collector, flipper, or investor. If this is your first time here and you're enjoying the content, do me a big favor and hit the like button and subscribe button so that these types of videos reach a wider audience. And thank you all so far who have subscribed to the channel and are enjoying the content. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the 6 different sports card niches that you can jump into today to begin your collecting, flipping, or investing journey. These 6 niches include vintage sports cards, sports card wax, prospecting, player collecting, and of course, grading, which is my favorite. Now, just to be clear from the get-go, there are literally hundreds of thousands of micro niches within the hobby, so this is by no means meant to be a comprehensive list, as each individual card itself is operating in its own market with its own supply and demand factors impacting the sale value for any given card at any given time. So in addition to an individual market for a specific card, there's markets for different sets, different players, different genres of cards, autographs, game use, quarterbacks drafted in the first round, you name it, there's a niche for it. There's even a niche related to buying off-market cycles and selling during peak season cycles. So again, this is not meant to be comprehensive. A good analogy to this is real estate. So your home or apartment is in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, has a very different market than a luxury condo in downtown New York City. Additionally, the LA market for real estate is very different than the market in Cincinnati, Ohio. However, real estate can be put into very broad categories such as single-family homes, multifamily homes, commercial property, self-storage, house hacking, fix and flip, etc. So this is my attempt to do just that. Before I jump into everything, I do want to say, broadly speaking, this video is meant not only for investors, flippers, but again, also collectors. I do have my thoughts on whether or not individuals should be in this hobby just to solely make money, whether it be flipping or collecting. I would highly, highly encourage anyone who is in the hobby just for the sole purposes of making money. Do not stay in the hobby for a very, very long time. Again, this is something that people have a passion for to collect. They have an emotional attachment to cards. They have a vested interest in the value of their cards, whether you're a collector, flipper, or investor. But for those who are simply here just to make money, please find something else to do to make money for, because again, this is something that we all want to enjoy and experience and really benefit from as collectors, but also hopefully to make some money along the way. So those are just my thoughts before we jump into the video. So again, this is my attempt to categorize the sports card market as broadly as possible, reviewing the pros and cons of each niche so that ultimately, if this is your first time getting into sports cards, or if you've just come back from the hobby from a long, long hiatus, you will have a good starting point on where you would like to go and what you should focus on. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So the very first niche is player collecting and set collecting. And guys, this is the most popular niche. This is the bread and butter of baseball cards. This is the reason why we all got involved in baseball cards whenever we were young, or even as older adults. We have an emotional connection to the players or to the game itself. Whether we played the game, we played baseball, we played basketball, we played football. You know, we didn't necessarily make it as professional athletes for one reason or another, but we have an emotional connection to the game itself. Very similar to how individuals are involved in sports gambling or sports betting. It just makes the connection even that further. Being able to see these players perform at such an artistic level on the screen, but be able to have a piece of their work, a piece of their art, and be able to collect them, whether it could be that you just idolize them because of their greatness as a sports athlete, or if you got a chance to meet them and had a really good interaction with them as a person, and you have just become fascinated with them and decided to collect them on their own. Again, if you are in this niche, player collecting and set collecting, you could be in that niche just to collect, but you could also be in it to make money as well. The pros of this niche. So the pros are you become the expert for that player. If you liked Albert Bell, a baseball player growing up in the 90s, more than likely, if you collect that player and you know every single card that was made by Albert Bell, you likely know the market for Albert Bell cards better than anybody else. Same with Frank Thomas. Same with King Griffey Jr., Michael Jordan. Now, obviously, it gets a little bit more skewed whenever you get to the really big hobby superstars because Then you start to transcend that line between player collector and people who are player collecting and investing, flipping, etc. So there's certainly a lot of different niches out there, a lot of different players, but you can become the de facto expert for that player or even for that set, whether it's a specific set like 86, 87 Fleer, 84, 85 Star, 2003, 2004 Exquisite, which again, you're really crossing over into people who really just want to get in this to make money, and they're not necessarily wanting to collect the set for the purposes of enjoying the art that is the card itself. So those are the pros in terms of player and set collecting. The cons of player collecting and set collecting is it can be very, very expensive. And the expense is really tied to the player. So if you're Michael Jordan, good luck collecting every Michael Jordan card ever made. If you're Derek Jeter, good luck collecting every Derek Jeter card ever made. But if you're a Mark Grace collector, if you are not to say Mark Grace is obscure, but even if you're more obscure than that, and I'm trying to really think of people who are very, very obscure. If you're an obscure player, it's much, much easier for you to get into that market and also buy cards very, very cheap. But again, if you want to be a player collector for very popular players and very popular hobby stars, this is something that could be very challenging in terms of acquiring everything that you want to acquire. So that's it for player collecting and set collecting. So the second niche is vintage cards, and vintage cards can very much so transcend that very first niche along the lines of player collecting and set collecting, but vintage in itself is by far and away its own niche for sure. Vintage is really defined as anything that is made before the 1980s. Beckett may actually have a different definition, whether it be cards made before 1981 or 1982, or it might be 1980, but very, very broadly, it's any card that's made before the 80s. Some of the mid-80s cards are really starting to become vintage just because of the nature of their collectability, and the definition of vintage is really semantics, but it's old cards. You have vintage sports cars, you have vintage antiques, you have vintage records, you have vintage everything. All these things that really make you think of classic Americana, that 40s, 50s, Coke signs, all those different things that you see at flea markets that are old that could be worth something or could not be worth something. That's vintage baseball cards. Vintage baseball cards in itself, vintage baseball cards, is really what got us also into the hobby as well. So it's not just the player collecting, set collecting, but it's also this concept of baseball cards. Whenever people say baseball cards, they really mean classic baseball cards, or they're insinuating classic baseball cards that could be baseball, basketball, football, hockey, etc. But really they're thinking Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, all the greats of the game for which we really idolized, or at least, our parents and grandparents idolized growing up, that really set its own niche. So vintage is by far and away, for sure, one of the most classic, for sure the most classic, but one of the most popular niches throughout our hobby history and even today. Now, what are some of the pros and cons of vintage? So the pros of vintage is that if you are in this to collect, flip, or even invest, the good thing about vintage is it's essentially a blue chip investment. What that means is that prices won't necessarily balloon over time because Mickey Mantle has passed away, Babe Ruth has passed away. These players can't necessarily do anything to impact their value, right? So, but over time, as the hobby grows, as the human population grows, those cards are finite in terms of supply, and that demand just keeps growing and growing and growing, and it really truly becomes a blue chip investment. Things like Apple stock, Google stock, Amazon, these high-grade vintage items continue to increase in price over time, so it's a very safe investment. It's not very risky because, again, these are the greats of the game, whether it be even Wilt Chamberlain, you go into basketball, Jerry West, all those greats of the games. They are just true blue chip investments. So it is a very, very safe investment in terms of if you want your collectibles to not fluctuate in value significantly over time or have a big risk of crashing. Now, the con to vintage is because these cards have been around for so long, if you are buying cards graded or ungraded, there are risks involved in all. Specifically with ungraded, because these cards have likely exchanged hands numerous times over the decades since their production. There's a very high likelihood that these cards, if they would have been gradable, they would have been graded. Same thing with graded cards themselves. If you see a very high condition Mickey Mantle or Willie Mays or Hank Aaron card that has a very fresh slab, meaning it was graded within the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years, highly questionable. Highly questionable. No, it's not popular to say, and I'm not saying that every card out there is altered in some way, but the likelihood that that card was recently graded after exchanging hands numerous times, and yes, I understand that there are rare vintage finds. There are collections out there that have been in the hands of one individual, and all of a sudden a dealer uncovered this find and is now grading those cards. Yes, I get that. So if there is some type of pedigree related to the card itself, much better. But for cards that are pedigreeless, where you don't know where they came from, you don't know whose hands they've been through, I am I question that, just because I don't necessarily know what to look for. The trimming scandals all revolve mainly around vintage cards. There are fake cards. There are cards that resemble tobacco cards, that they are essentially reprints that have been modified to reflect the type of aging and the creases that you would expect over time. So the risk of buying these cards, graded and ungraded, is very high if you do not know what you're looking for. And for that reason, that is the main reason why I've not gotten into vintage cards. It's because of the risk. I am by no means an expert on vintage. I have no idea what to look for. The learning curve is so steep. And to be quite honest, I don't care about Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, and all these guys. I didn't watch them play. I really hope to God that in 40 years people don't say that about Michael Jordan, because if they do, it's going to make my head explode. So I apologize if I'm making any 70 and 80-year-old individuals' heads explode right now. Truly apologize. But those are not the players that I want to collect. I grew up watching MJ and idolizing MJ, so that is my guy. But I just have no interest in buying vintage. So for that reason, the risks, very risky. So the third investment is, or the third niche is wax collecting. Wax box collecting, whether it be packs, whether it be wax boxes, or even cases. Any unopened sports product is a great investment. And this is really a blue chip investment. This is not a speculative investment. This is a blue chip investment. Why is it a blue chip investment, and what are the pros of wax specifically? The main pros of wax are that there's a finite supply, again, of what has been made. Let's look at a traditional Bowman Chrome case. In the mid-2000s, Bowman Chrome cases were limited to approximately 2,500 to 3,000 cases each. So if you bought one of these cases and it happens to have the product that has Mike Trout's autographed rookie card in it, the 2009 Bowman Chrome draft product, you're sitting on a treasure chest, a modern day gold mine, because over time there have been so many cases that have been broken, and that supply will continue to dwindle. Whether you have 2012-2013 Panini Prism basketball unopened product, again, that supply will continue to dwindle. 86-87 Fleer basketball, 96-97 Topps Chrome product, now really stretching into 97-98, 98-99 Topps Chrome. All those products are highly in demand and collected, and over time those products, the supply will decrease. What does that do to the overall value? Well, even if you kept demand the same, this is very simple supply and demand, guys. If supply drops, even if supply drops in half and demand remains constant, you are seeing upward price pressure on that unopened product, and that's going to make prices go up. We have seen it with 93 SP baseball product that has Derek Jeter's rookie. We've seen it with 89 Upper Deck. We've seen it with 86-87 Fleer. We've seen it with all vintage wax. We've seen it with everything from 2003, 2004 that has LeBron James's rookies. We've seen it with everything 2017 with Patrick Mahomes rookies. Everything from 2011 and 2009 that has Mike Trout rookies. These products are unbelievable, great blue chip investments. They will absolutely outperform Dow Jones Industrial averages. They're not going to be products that are going to really boom over time. The boom comes whenever a player really breaks out. And I'm talking about Patrick Mahomes, for example, within the past 6 to 12 months. His unopened wax has skyrocketed mainly because his hobby status has skyrocketed. So again, you can be speculative in this, but for the most part, things like 96-97 Topps Chrome basketball, Those are going to continue to increase in price. Same thing with 2003, 2004 Topps Chrome Basketball. Those will continue to increase in price because the amount of unopened wax that is available in the supply will continue to dwindle. Now, what are some of the problems with this? Problems with wax are you have to be sure that this unopened wax is authentic. It's unsearched. It hasn't been opened and cards removed and packs removed and resealed. All of this is very, very real. Now, fortunately, to combat that, there are some, again, authentication companies out there. PSA does have a pack authentication process, so if you're in the market for an 86, 87 Fleer wax pack, highly, highly recommend that you get the pack or you buy an authenticated pack. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the pack has been unsearched within the box, because the sequence of that specific set is known, and people could essentially grade packs that are dead packs. And even though it has a high grade, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a Jordan rookie. So all these things are risk factors and things that you have to be aware of as a collector. You can't just go out there and buy things without doing your research. You cannot do it. If you're buying a product that is very easy to open and reseal the packs, things like 1992 Bowman, all these different types of products throughout time that are very easy to scam. Even if you look at 2019, 2020 Panini Prism Basketball, there are fatty fatzos out there who are literally going to Target, cleaning the shelves of this product, wearing their stupid, ugly sweatpants, looking creepy in the card aisle, and taking that product home, opening it up, trying to get the Zion Williamson, Ja Morant rookies, and then they will reseal the product and put 1990 Fleer dead baseball cards in there. And then return the product to Target. So whenever you buy that product on the Target, you're like, oh, I found a 2019-20 Panini Prism Basketball blaster box. You're opening up resealed product. That is a real thing. So again, you have to do your market research, because there are a bunch of fatties out there who absolutely suck at life, who have nothing else to do in their life, and they're too stupid in their head to get a real job, and they will scam you. So again, every single one of these niches, you are prone to being scammed, so it is up to you to do your due diligence. I've been scammed. That is part of the learning process. And one of the great things about being in the hobby for over 20 years is that I know what I need to be looking out for, even whenever there's new innovation, new products that come out, because I've been tripped up along the lines, but now I know exactly what to look for and what to avoid. So those are the pros and cons with wax investing. All right, so next up is group breaking. Group breaking. Oh my gosh, what all that I have to say about this. So I'm a pharmacist. For those of you that don't know, the opioid addiction is real out there. It is a real issue in America. Doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. Could be Kentucky, where I'm from. Could be in Arizona, even where I'm at now. There is a ton of different addictions out there. Guys, group breaking is right up there with opioid addiction. I hate to tell you. I hate to say it. It literally works on the exact same neuropathical pathways. I'm not going to chastise anybody who is in group breaking. I recognize that this is a niche and that this is an opportunity for individuals who love gambling, who love the gambling aspect, to get involved in the hobby for the excitement piece. Now, to be fair, all of the excitement pathways and processes, things that we really get excited about, all that also does activate your dopaminergic pathways. So everything, dopamine is the excitement. It's the pleasure center, right? It's the pleasure neurotransmitter, etc. So I recognize that people love the hobby for the excitement, whether it be opening up boxes, opening up cases, opening up packs. That is that rush that you feel, right? But that is an addiction, and that addiction is real. And I never, ever have participated in a group break, and I highly encourage anybody who has an addictive thought mentality or process, do not get into this niche. Do not. And if you want to get into this to make money, absolutely stay away. Now, let's break this down a little bit. So group breaking can occur two different mechanisms. You can either be the host or you can be the participant. If you're the host, you will make money. If you are not the host, some people will make money, most people will not make money. So what are the pros and cons? The pros of group breaking are, again, if you are the host, you're going to make money, and you actually get to open packs and get your fix, so to speak. If you are a participant, the good thing about this is if you do your due diligence, and if you know anything about sports gambling, if you know anything about gambling in general, you know the concept of expected value. Meaning if you place a bet, if you place your hand down on something, if you put money down, you are expecting some type of expected value. Now, depending on how the group breaks are set up, essentially the purpose of what these group breaks are is that instead of buying a case on your own and opening the cards up, should have had this definition in the very beginning, instead of opening up your own product, you are joining a collective community of individuals who have paid a per slot price to participate in this break. And those breaks or slots can either be player specific, they could be card sequence specific. So let's say you have a box that has 10 cards and you want to have the 5th card in the box. Or it could be team specific. So things within the Bowman and Bowman Chrome series, let's say there's a specific team like the New York Yankees in 2020 Bowman Chrome that has Jason Dominguez rookie cards and prospect cards. Let's say that you want to bid on that because you want Jason Dominguez cards. So every single slot has a different expected value. So if you really do your research and you have identified value that no one else has found, then the expected value for that slot is going to be higher, right? Unfortunately, that is not the case for every single slot. The person who is making money is the group breaking host. So if you want to get in that niche, by all means do that. I have my own thoughts about group breaking host. I know it's fun. It just has unintended consequences. I don't have anything disparaging to say about the hosts themselves, but it is causing massive chaos within the price of sports card product. It is making it unaffordable for anyone to buy anything on their own. And again, I'm not in the market for this, but I see the unintended consequences for my fellow collectors who truly want to enjoy cards. Again, this is the free market doing the free market thing. I'm not going to be preaching socialism and communism because I ain't about that. But I will say that it does have unintended consequences. So from a positive perspective, if you are someone who has knowledge and you can find that unexpected value and the expected value to maximize your bet that you're placing, by all means take advantage of it. The cons, I believe I've listed significant number of cons. One, it's driving the price of wax up exponentially, which is annoying for everyone, including me, who is somebody who wants to buy singles from other people who open their own product, right? Secondly, it is highly, highly addictive. These stories don't come out a lot, but every now and then you will see someone within a sports card message board say that they are thousands and thousands of dollars in debt. I am one who absolutely encourages people to reach out and seek help whenever, by all means, go and see a therapist. I myself have seen therapists in the past, been through a lot of different things in my life. It's very, very funny. The last therapist that I went to, as I was describing my personal issues, because again, everybody has issues, I was talking about my hobbies and things that I do for fun. I talked about me being involved in the sports card hobby. The therapist said that he had a client who he is coming to the therapist specifically because he has an addiction to group breaking. He has an addiction to joining hosts and spending thousands upon thousands of dollars, and it caused marital issues to the point where his wife or his or her spouse, significant other actually left them. So he is now seeking therapy for that. Now, obviously, he didn't divulge too much details due to HIPAA concerns, but again, this is a real issue. So it is addictive. If you want to do this for entertainment money, again, you take $100 to the casino because you're in Vegas. Yeah, blow it in an hour. It's an hour worth of entertainment. Just don't go back to the ATM to go get another $100 to climb your way back, because once you begin going down that road, you are screwed. So another issue with this, again, is if you want to make money doing this, this is perhaps the worst way to make money in the hobby. Unless you are in the top 2 to 3 or maybe even 5th percentile. And again, I don't have expertise in this area. There are a lot of people who likely do. I would highly encourage you to listen to them if this is something that you want to do and really truly find that expected value that I necessarily can't find or don't necessarily want to involve myself in, because I'm doing pretty good on my own with the niches that I'm involved with. So if you want to do that, by all means, seek out those channels, seek out the individuals who are doing very, very well with that. I think that it is one of the crappiest parts of the hobby, but again, it is a niche, and I know that it's attracting a lot of people from a lot of different segments, whether it be sports gambling or just general entertainment value. This even got a front page or a news story within Sports Illustrated recently, which is just mind-boggling to me, but that is group breaking in a nutshell. So which one are we on now? We're 5th. All right. So the 5th niche that exists is prospecting. Prospecting. So prospecting can either be investing or flipping. It really takes both forms. And it can also include blue chip prospecting or blue chip speculation. So let's go into that a little bit deeper. What does prospecting mean? So I don't necessarily mean prospecting like what individuals did in America going out to the West Coast and prospecting for gold. In a way that it kind of is very, very similar to that. But prospecting is really, again, trying to find value in the marketplace that other people have not found. And your hope is that that value will be recognized at a later date. That value could be recognized at a later date as soon as tomorrow. It could be recognized as soon as a week from now, a month from now, or 2 to 3 years from now. So that really gets into that flipping versus investing piece, depending on what your timeline is. If you have a longer timeline, you're likely going to be investing. So investing can come across multiple different sports. You could really invest in LeBron James today. You could truly, truly prospect LeBron James. If you think that LeBron James, even though he is widely recognized as the main hobby star within basketball today, aside from Michael Jordan, but active basketball players, he is the hobby star, you could truly prospect LeBron James. You could prospect a specific card, whether you think all of his Panini Prism cards are going to go up, or you could prospect his second year cards because you think that they're grossly undervalued, or you could prospect his third, fourth, fifth, sixth year Topps Chrome cards because you are a believer that Topps Chrome is way better than Panini Prism, despite what the herd out there thinks, me included, that Topps Chrome is way, way, way better than Panini Prism. And you could just prospect those knowing that eventually the trend will carry on. That is one way that you can prospect. The other way is you can prospect and identify talent. This is the larger cohort of prospecting where you're truly trying to find rookies or, and using baseball as an example because this is really where it came from, you're looking at players in the minor leagues who are at the lower levels or even at the higher levels who have talent that is unrecognized by the masses. And as those individuals are working their way through the minor leagues and eventually hit the major leagues, once that talent becomes more widespread, their card supply is so finite that once that widespread recognition becomes known, their cards increase in value tremendously. It could occur at call-up. It could occur once the player actually gets to the major leagues and really starts killing it, whether it be Aaron Judge. So Aaron Judge got called up to the major leagues in the end of 2016. He wasn't popular at the end of 2016. He wasn't popular until he really started hitting home runs in 2017, where eventually he hit, close to 50 home runs in 2017. So that is prospecting. So you are trying to identify talent that you project will be very, very valuable later on down the line. And this can occur over the short term or the long term. So what are the pros and cons of this? The pros is that if you truly have an inkling and a faith, a strong level of confidence that you have found value that is unrecognized, and that value will become recognized at a later date based on the player's performance or based on a number of environmental factors or trends that you're recognizing within the hobby, then you can make a lot of money. The rate limiting step for you to make money within prospecting is your knowledge. And that is why I love prospecting so, so much. It is all about this. It is not about being fat and going to Target and going to Walmart and opening up a bunch of product and stealing all the good stuff and then returning it because you're a jackass. It's not that whatsoever. It is all about this. It is all about what is in your head and what advantage do you have in your mind over anybody else who is doing this. And that is where hard work and knowing sports, truly knowing sports, whether you played sports, whether you played basketball, football, hockey, soccer, you can identify talent before anybody else. This is a validation of yourself. You can pump your own chest, literally, whether it be you gloat to yourself or to your friends or whoever. You can get self-gratification and validation, and this is very, very narcissistic, so please don't take this the wrong way. You can get validation that what you are seeing is true. And that what you are projecting to be true is true based on your prospecting ability. So it is all about hard work. It's all about effort. Now, yes, there are certain circumstances where your plan of attack, so to speak, doesn't necessarily work out. Again, because it just doesn't work out, whether you mistime the market, etc. Player could get injured. I had a huge investment in Ronald Acuna Jr. As soon as he got called up, he got injured. And I had a ton of money because I knew Ronald Acuna Jr. was going to be a big thing. I sold everything because I have a flip model. And I sold everything right during the injury, and the sale prices were like a third of what the prices were 4, 5, 6 months later once he actually came back and became Ronald Acuna Jr. for what we know. But at the same time, I also made a lot of money on Ronald Acuna Jr. whenever 2017 Bowman Chrome came out because everybody else was chasing every other player in that set other than Ronald Acuna Jr. He was like the 4th or 5th best prospect. I saw that talent. I saw that talent work its way up through the minor leagues, and as that talent worked its way up through the minor leagues, I made money hand over fist on Ronald Acuna Jr. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. I know nothing about the football card market, nothing whatsoever, other than Tom Brady is worth a lot of money and everybody else for some reason sucks. Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, I began watching football for the very stupid, odd reason because I wasn't a big fan of football at the time. But I saw Patrick Mahomes play, and I was like, wow, I don't know much about football despite playing it in high school, but this is special talent. I've passively watched football before. This guy has talent. So I began digging and reading and doing my due diligence, and I found out that his value was vastly underrated. And hopefully, if you are a loyal follower of the channel and you see my buys and you see what I grade and you see my flips, you have seen that I've been buying Patrick Mahomes really since, gosh, are we literally in 2020 now? Since the end of 2018. So as soon as week 4, week 5 of his first full year in the league, I began buying his cards and grading and flipping, and up to this point I have a very, very sizable collection of Patrick Mahomes cards that is worth a substantial amount of money, all because of prospecting. I saw the talent, I saw that the value wasn't there. The value eventually caught up after Patrick Mahomes proved that he was an MVP of the league, he was a Super Bowl champion, and now he is the face of the NFL. So you can make a ton of money prospecting. Some of the cons of prospecting is it's becoming extremely, extremely crowded. So back in the early 2000s, mid to late 2000s, I really got into prospecting. I got into prospecting because I saw Ryan Howard and David Wright's rookie cards in 2005 skyrocket in price. Ryan Howard's 2003 Bowman's Best autograph rookie was a $30 card. It jumped all the way up to $800. David Wright's Bowman Chrome autograph rookie from 2002 was roughly a $20, $30, $40 card. It jumped up to $1,000. Albert Pujols set the stage for this. I saw that these players were in the minor leagues and performing, and then all of a sudden they got called up to the majors, were a huge success, and people were making hand over fist money. Granted, I was a kid at the time. I wasn't even in college. I was in high school. But eventually I did this all the way through high school, all the way up until pharmacy school, where really I couldn't do a lot within the hobby because of my time commitments. But the rate limiting step at that time for me was money. Everything that I bet on, for the most part, I won't say everything. I got Mike Trout right. I got Steven Strasburg right at the time. I made a ton of money on Jesus Montero. Jesus Montero in the long run was not right, but Jesus Montero in the short term over a 2 to 3 year span was an amazing investment. Same thing with Giancarlo Stanton. Same thing with Bryce Harper. Made a ton of money, and the only rate limiting factor at that time was money. If I were a millionaire, I would have a lot of money at this time, but I didn't have $1 million to jump into cards. Today, because of the success of prospects and even the ventures of prospecting like myself, there's a lot of people in it now. A lot of people recognize that you can make a lot of money. They saw Mike Trout's autograph Bowman Chrome rookie card in BGS 9.5 go from a $200 card in 2012 all the way to a $12,000 card today. They saw that 2011 Topps Update Mike Trout rookie be a $2 to $3 card in raw form, or roughly like $30, $40 in PSA 10 form in 2011, 2012. Now it is a $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 card. Actually, I think it's over $2,000 now. I think it's $2,700 based on my last video. I mean, you can make a lot of money doing this. But a lot of people are doing it, and with that, the prices of the surefire investments, the knowledge that everybody has because the internet is large and all the information is out there, and message boards, you can find out any information that you want. It's very, very hard to maintain an edge in today's market because there's so many people in it because they know that you can make a lot of money. So it's becoming a lot more difficult. But again, if you continue to seek out these opportunities, same thing with every single market. There's always going to be a boom. There's always going to be a really good arbitrage opportunity. And then the market contracts where really the arbitrage opportunities are limited to those individuals who truly understand the market and truly know where the market is going over the next 6 to 12 months. So you can absolutely do well with prospecting, but you have to know exactly what you are doing. And you have to have that historical precedent, because otherwise, if you're jumping into it today and you're just assuming that you're going to find the next Mike Trout and then make hundreds of thousands of dollars, not going to happen. Sorry, not happening. All right, last but not least, and by far my favorite, but it's also following the same trend as prospecting, is grading. Grading. Why do I love grading so much? I love grading because it can be combined with any of the niches that I've previously talked about, as can some of the other niches. They can be combined as well. The great thing about grading is it is the only niche within the hobby where today I could buy a card, let's say for $100, and tomorrow, just by grading the card, let's assume that I can get the card graded overnight, I can sell it for $200, $300, $400, even $1,000 overnight. Same card, nothing happened. The player had an off day. We're in the middle of a pandemic. The player did nothing. They even may have said something controversial on TV. Doesn't matter. You can actually grade the card, and tomorrow you have instant ROI. It is the equivalent of a fix and flip within real estate, but you don't have to do a 4-month fix and flip. You don't have to. You literally buy a card, you get the card graded, it comes back, you have instant ROI. Now, you can really make this work whenever you combine that with something else, whether you have knowledge of a specific player or a specific set. Because you know that player is undervalued, because you know that set is undervalued, because you know that set is easy to grade, because you know that player's market is going to increase in value, whether you're prospecting and projecting the expected value of that one card to increase over time. You can combine this with so many different niches, and not only do you get the benefit of grading the card itself, you also get the benefit of projecting 3, 4, 5, 6 months out that this card is going to be extremely valuable because you see the performance that they're doing, or you see the speculation moving in that direction. You see the hype, you see the wave. You really get in at the beginning of the wave as the wave begins to rise up, and you can ride that wave for a very long period of time before the wave eventually crashes. Because to be perfectly honest, everything within the hobby, if you're not a blue chip investment, crashes. Everything. So that's another video that's coming, is blue chip investments versus non-blue chip investments. So stay tuned for that. But grading is an amazing way to provide instant ROI. And that's it. That is one of the big reasons. I will say secondary and tertiary to that. So if you are selling cards like myself or anybody else, you have likely experienced the issue where someone has complained about the condition of the card if it's not graded. 99.9% of the time, if the card is graded, nobody is going to complain and return the card. I have had 2 instances where individuals have complained that the card did not meet their condition not as described, despite being graded by a third-party authenticator, whether it be PSA or Beckett, and eBay sided with them, which blows my mind. Those people are on my block list and forever will never be able to bid on my auctions. But for the most part, it does protect you from those returns. So if you're selling a card that has a flaw today, because of all the individuals who flooded this market in it for money, which is a good thing and a bad thing. The bad thing is that all they want is to find cards that are gradable. Those individuals will return a card, and if you are one of those people out there, you suck. You're a piece of shit. Sorry, I'm just being blunt. If you're one of those people who returns cards because they do not fit the description, you suck. Just flat out, you suck. Because of that, you have a very high likelihood of having cards returned, which is why I almost grade everything. I do not want to deal with a return. I do not want to deal with a moron who is trying to get a Gem Mint card. I'm actively looking for Gem Mint cards. My grading rate has decreased over time because I'm trying to find graded cards, but there's a lot more cards out there that have flaws because everybody is sending their cards in to get graded. In addition to that, I'm also grading cards that I otherwise would not because I don't want to deal with the headache of having the card returned. And there's a misconception out there that if a card grades a 9, a modern card grades a 9 mint, that it's for some reason going to sell the equivalent of raw or less. Complete fallacy. Makes no sense. Doesn't make any sense. Not logical whatsoever. The data is out there on eBay. If you would just do the search, you would recognize that that is not truthful. So it is also protection. Not only do you get the ROI, but you also get the protection from a return perspective. Last but not least, people who want to invest in cards, who want to collect cards, they want to collect cards that are graded because those are the ones that are going to appreciate and value the most. You don't want an 86, 87 Fleer Michael Jordan raw card. More than likely the card is altered, or more than likely the card has a lot of flaws. You want a graded card because that provides you the higher likelihood that the card truly does match the grade that is assigned to it, assuming that it was a card that is not prone to trimming and altering and all those different types of things, which 8687 Fleer actually is one of those cards. But again, you do your due diligence, you try to find the card's history, etc. But it does provide you that peace of mind with the card being graded, and it's also going to appreciate in value. The appreciation and value for Michael Jordan rookie cards has not occurred in the raw card market. It has occurred within the PSA 8, PSA 9, PSA 10 market, where those have exploded in value because people truly want the cream of the crop and they want to invest in the cream of the crop. So even from that perspective, even if you're looking to sell your cards later on down the line, they need to be graded. It just makes it easier, less returns, higher likelihood that you're going to maximize your value, and also you get that instant value immediately. Now, what are the cons? The biggest con with grading cards, the actual niche of grading cards, like myself, is that everybody now is doing it. And that popularity could be attributed to YouTube, to people watching the videos and seeing the model, which is great. I highly want to encourage people to do it. Right now, the issue, though, is turnaround time. Because everybody is doing it, it's not that there is a limited supply out there. The supply of cards to be graded is out there. We will the way the market is growing, we will likely never hit that threshold, or at least not within the next 2 to 3 years, for individuals to run out of cards to buy to get graded. Right now, the issue is capacity within the grading companies, whether it be PSA, Beckett, SGC. The pandemic has not helped things. It has put things behind. But there's also a massive, massive surge in business. PSA announced a couple months ago they have over a 1 million card backlog in their queue to get graded. That is literally 1 million cards, guys. 1 million cards. That shows you how popular this is and how awesome this arbitrage opportunity is. That also speaks to the benefits. Because you can make so much money in this, you can also build an amazing personal collection. And that's a video that I'm going to be dropping here in the next couple of weeks, if not months, more than likely months, because my personal collection and the contents of that collection and the value of that collection has increased so much, all because of grading. So the hobby, the thing that I enjoy the most, my cards, the value of my personal collection has increased so much because of just flipping, buying, grading, flipping, buying, grading, flipping, and then being able to buy cool cards that I really, really want, or just keeping the cards that I graded that I think are really, really cool, because I also want to buy cards and grade cards that I find are cool. So overall, amazing niche, but there are a ton of people who are now jumping into the hobby and trying to do the exact same thing, and it is causing massive backlogs. But again, if you have knowledge, you pivot. There are ways around the backlog, and you have to be very, very in tune with the market, with where the market is going, and your business model, if you happen to have a business model or your hobby model, whatever it is, to pivot and truly, truly find those opportunities to keep whatever process you have going. So, guys, that is it. 6 hobby niches. If you are new to the hobby, by all means, I hope that you found this video very, very helpful. Again, there are a ton of niches out there. If you're just getting started, please feel free to ask questions and comments down below. Ping me on Instagram. I try to respond very, very quickly, but just due to work, just due to a lot of different things, I typically don't respond to social media like within really 3, 4, 5 days. Sometimes it's been 7 days, just with a lot of things that are going on, at work that I'm really trying to build at work. So, I will try to get to you, but I hope that you really enjoyed this video. Hope that it was very helpful. Again, there are a ton of niches. Go to the message boards, look at YouTube videos, do all of your due diligence, because right now it is a very high likelihood that you can be scammed if you are not doing your due diligence. You can buy things that you don't need to buy. You could be buying things that are altered. You could be buying things that have a very high risk for not turning out in your favor if you are just taking some person's advice who has just been in the hobby for 6 months to a year because they thought that they could make a lot of money in sports cards, and now that all of a sudden there's some guru. Don't take advice like that and have that be the only advice that you take. Keep searching the hobby, the message boards, YouTube, talk to other collectors, meet a lot of other collectors, ask people questions, learn as much as you can so that you can protect yourself, but also enjoy this hobby either as a collector, flipper, or investor. So thanks guys, drop a comment down below, hit the subscribe button, but otherwise, peace.